Alrighty, here's a surprise video review of the Unique Toys Warhawk. I decided to give this one a chance. I do have affiliations with Mastermind Collectibles. I think I'm digging their Predaking more, but just to give it a fair shot, I decided to check out Unique Toys' version of Predaking as well. Because I do like, I'm not sure how I feel about the individual Unique Toys robots, but regardless of which one ends up on my permanent shelf, I do kind of like the aesthetics of this Predaking in combined mode. Like it just has a slightly slimmer, more cartoony dimensions look to it, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It just has a kind of a classic giant robot look to it, and it's kind of hard to explain. But so I figured I'd check it out. I found that now and just give it a fair shake, because I had kind of been all down on it without having it in hand, and it's kind of hard to be like, I don't like that one when you haven't checked it out. So here he is. I will say right out of the box, the plastic does feel a little bit. It doesn't feel as good as some of my other third-party products. I mean, like you're not getting, Fans Project plastic or Mastermind plastic. I mean, I guess Mastermind can feel a little fragile on theirs, but it's still a tough plastic. This I'm afraid of dropping. You can kind of hear that vibration. It feels kind of like Big Lots plastic. I'd be more concerned, except I've heard that when War Rhino comes out, or War Rhino's out to some people, I've heard the plastic is much improved, and they've made a note of improving the plastic. So, and if that's the case, great, because like I said, it feels, in comparison, a little weaker than what you're used to in a lot of the third-party stuff, but it doesn't feel like I wouldn't want to drop it onto a hard floor from a significant height, but it's fine for playing with. I mean, like I have no problem. I'm not afraid to transform it or anything like that. And again, it apparently just affects this one. They've stepped up their game since with the second one, which should be here soonish. And we can compare. And if that's the case, great. I'm all for people learning from previous mistakes and building. Everybody starts somewhere. So yeah, he's a little smaller than I expected, or would have liked to seen. Really is the word there. But he's not bad. He seems like, I don't have a G1 dive bomb to compare with. He seems a little smaller than that, but a decent size. I do like he's got these. You saw me playing with him. He's got these individually posable feathers on his wings, which are kind of nice. Although speaking of the wings, we'll get to that in a little bit. The wings are a minor concern for me. You can see the connector port on the back here for arm mode. You got posable claws down here. You saw me playing with those a little bit earlier. Individually posable toes, which I think is really neat as well. I think my one complaint about this, and I realized the G1 toy did it too, but you can't hide his face. Like his face is just kind of, robot mode face just kind of hanging out here underneath bird mode. And I know the Mastermind ones, I think the face flips up or something covers the face. And I would have liked to have seen some of that engineering maybe put into play here. But again, the G1 toy did it. It's not the most egregious error that they could have done. Like I'm not super upset about it, but it is a minor nitpick. Now the paint's a little uneven. You can kind of see there's some spots around here where it's just kind of sprayed on, or whatever. The application's a little weak, especially around the edges. In the middle, it's fine, but like right around the edges, it gets a little uneven. But just there on that gold chest that I've noticed, everything else seems pretty well laid out and stays within the lines, and a pretty decent paint application everywhere else on the figure. It's just this little chest bit right here. So yeah. I forgot where I'd lost my train of thought there, but not bad. So to transform him, and this is another thing I like about this. Transform him, you rotate the talons up and flip them around like this, and then extend the legs. And you can split them first too, but you extend them, and the talons actually flip up into the leg, which is nice. I think it's a neat little feature, the way they just slide up in there. I also think it would have been nice if you could have left the talons out for robot mode, because I like them better as feet. But oh well. And the feet flip down right here. This piece right here is actually on a double hinge. There's like a hinge up top here, and then a hinge. You can see that the silver dot from the lower hinge. And there's also a hinge up at the body. So if you want to lift that up and just kind of get it up. Give it a little bit more room for the waist to swivel and fold that up against his body. You can, which is nice. Just helps give a little bit more clearance there for the waist, which I like. Rotate the wings up. They're on little hinges here. And again, the wings are nice and sturdy. They stay in place. We'll get into that in a minute. Head flips up. You can open the mouth here on the bird, but it doesn't come down to form like the chin area like it did on the G1 toy. It's just a solid mouth. So you can tilt the bird head down a little bit if you want to have it look more like a hat, however you want. The arms are a little difficult to get out, but not super. So if you get the bottom out, you can kind of pull it out from the shoulder. Just be careful. I wouldn't use too much force up there. Flip the fists out. And that's pretty much him in robot mode. I'll extend this arm over here. And again, not bad. You can splay the wings however you want. You can fold them up together. You can have the feathers split however you want. He does come with a sword. You can have right here. And there he is. Now, height-wise, here he is. Take a brief moment here. We've seen some of the Feral Rex figures pictured with Mastermind's Hexatron to get an idea of how their height is. And if you give me just a second here. So just by comparison, here's a quick shot of Mastermind's 6-shot analog with their Razor Claw and Bovis or Tantrum figures. And Dive Bomb, their talon is about the same size. So you can see that Bovis at the top of his head comes up a little past 6-shot's waist there, or Hexatron's waist there, with a little bit of bulk and stuff. Razor Claw comes up almost to the top of his little chest panel. And by comparison, here's Dive Bomb with Hexatron. So whereas the Mastermind guys tend to come up, we saw like what's the word? Leo Ducks, or the Razor Claw analog comes up to about here, with the rest of the figures probably sitting around this high on Hexatron. Dive Bomb's about here, so smaller than the Feral Rex guys, which may or may not be a benefit to you depending on how you're looking at it, depending on what you want on your shelf. And supposedly TFC's is supposed to be even bigger than Hercules. So we'll see how that turns out. Oh, also, I forgot to talk about the instructions. The instructions just come in just a little Ziploc baggie, of all things. Pull those out. Now, the card here is just a very thinly printed cardboard tech spec. Let's see. But again, War Rhino supposedly comes with the thicker plastic bio card, like you're finding in a lot of these toys now. Along with for War Rhino and one for Warhawk, so you get the nice plastic card, which is nice. And then the basic instructions, a little comic in here, and the transformation instructions. And of course, since he is a member of a Predaking combiner, he has an arm mode. And this is where I have some reservations on this, because you remember on the old G1 figure, this whole wing assembly popped off and attached to the back of Predaking. Now, this combiner is definitely going to use a separate set of wings. The wings on the combined, what do they call him, Warlord, are much bigger than these. So one, you're going to have a different set of wings for the combiner than for this. But also, since the wings don't come off, aren't used for arm mode, and this whole assembly doesn't come off, they're actually pegged into this tab right here. So you pop them off. Now, I've done this a few times today. You see there's just kind of this type of friction. There's 3-prong kind of friction pin on there. I've done this several times today, and as of right now, I admit I've had no significant looseness. It hasn't been getting looser, but I've only done it a couple times. And chances are, if you're getting this, you're not going to be constantly changing back from mode to mode. You're probably going to combine it into Predaking and put it on your shelf and look at it, and maybe play with Predaking a little bit. And you might transform from time to time. And if that's the case, these might hold up. I do have some, I haven't noticed any looseness yet, but I do have some concerns about if you're constantly popping these in and out of here, you can see a little bit of like some of the black plastic starting to fray a little bit, as well as, I mean, these holes seem pretty solid, but there is a little bit of just a very, very slight indication that maybe it's bending the plastic a little bit on the inserting and removing. Time will tell on that. Like I said, I'm not seeing any indication that it's getting looser over the course of today, but it is something to keep an eye on over time, because I mean, just anything that you're just constantly rubbing against each other is eventually going to lead to trouble when you're talking about plastic. So just something to keep in mind. But you squeeze the arms in, flip the head down. Actually, you don't want to squeeze the arms in yet. That was my fault. I did that out of order. So we'll get those back out. First, what you want to do is, if you lifted this up, you want to bring this all the way down again, and then rotate this whole assembly around so the fins, so the tail feathers come around to the front of the robot. Flip his head down, and then this black middle piece stays there, and you bring just this part around to form his forearm. And then you can go ahead and collapse the arms in, and just like that. Flip out the connector joint right there. You can fold that down. I guess you could leave it like this too, or you don't have to. Well, no, I guess that it kind of is the elbow joint. So I guess you could leave it like that and have the elbow joint like that if you wanted to on the hand. But technically it's supposed to go like this. And then he has the hand. And the hand is a couple slots here on the leg. And you just tab that in there somehow. Should plug. There we go. Snap the legs together. There we go. And there's the fist. Now, the fist is what honestly is the piece that feels the cheapest plastic to me, and I don't know what that is. The fist feels a little lower quality than the figure itself, but not super so. But just there's something different about it, and it could just be the silver paint. I don't know, but you've got nicely individually jointed fingers, ball joint, hinge. All the knuckles are there. Some neat little spikes on it. On the fingers themselves, I kind of dig the talons on the fingers. Very neat. I'm not a real big fan of these spikes coming off here. I'll probably snip them off and then just cover it up with paint, because it looks like it's black plastic with some silver paint on it under there. So these spikes I'll probably end up snipping off. I don't care for these spikes. I like the idea of these claws here as kind of like brass knuckles. I wish they were angled forward a little bit more. More like Wolverine claws versus just spikes sticking straight up off the back of his hand, because there's clearly room for it. The fingers don't go any further back than that. I think you could have angled these a little bit further forward and made him look more like if he could slash at you with his fist, have more angled claws coming off like that versus straight up. It's a minor complaint, but just a nitpick if we're getting into it. So yeah, and that's the arm mode. And you can get an idea of about how big he's going to be. I'm not real big on this gap here, and I guess you could, if you wanted to. You can only, not too much, because his talons do start to come out. You can compress that arm a little bit, just to hide that gap a little bit if you choose. Whether you can do that also on their Rampage analog, I don't know. So you might end up with one arm much longer than the other. Yeah, so I'm not super big on the gap in the elbow, but at the same time, I don't mind it so much on Fans Project's Menasor. So, or I haven't minded it so much so far. I may have the same problem when Menasor comes out and about, but we'll see. It's not super distracting, but it is a little bit of a distraction of this big old gap here in the forearm. But yeah, there he is. There is a Unique Toys Warhawk. And we'll see what the rest of them look like. We'll certainly do comparisons with the Mastermind versions as those come out as well. So there you go, Unique Toys Warhawk. Is it worth the price? It's really up to you. If you like the aesthetics of the combiner, it might be worth picking up for you. I really can't say, is it worth spending money on this over X right this time, because this is the only one I've gotten so far. I think really what it'll come down to me is if War Rhino gets here and the plastic is much improved, as people are saying it is, that could really be a game changer on this one. Because this one he doesn't feel horrible, but he doesn't feel quite as tough as I'm used to, as I've gotten used to with the third parties that have been doing this longer. So perfectly playable. It's not it's not worthless. I mean, like, worthless isn't the term I want to use. It's not super distracting. It's not necessarily a deal breaker. Just be aware that it does feel a little cheaper than some of the other stuff you're used to. And with just the standard amount of care, you should be fine. I feel like I'm caveating a lot. It does feel cheaper. I don't know if in him, War Rhinor's supposedly better. I don't know if it's up to you if that's a deal breaker or not. I think when you get them all combined, you're probably not going to notice so much. But there it is, Unique Toys Warhawk.